All right. So here's the thing, man. Football right now is in this crazy place where we're literally watching history being written in front of our eyes. And the guy at the center of it is Erling Haaland, this Viking looking Terminator built machine who is scoring goals like it's a cheat code. And the wild part is people can't even agree on what he actually is. Some folks are like, this dude's a pure goal machine, the ultimate predator in the box, and others are like, nah, he's one dimensional, just a poacher with monster genetics. But here's the hook: that debate, that split, is exactly what makes this conversation so fascinating because it's not just about Haaland, it's about football's future, about what we even want a striker to be in the modern game. And if you're sitting there wondering whether we're watching the birth of a legend or the evolution of an old school role in a new school body, buckle up because once we dive into this, you're not going to look at the sport or strikers the same way again. When you talk about Haaland's scoring record, it's like you're not even talking about a normal footballer anymore. You're talking about some kind of glitch in the system, like the video game developers left a cheat code unlocked and this dude just spawned into real life because the way he puts the ball into the net doesn't even feel human. It feels inevitable. Like you can see it coming a mile away and still nobody can stop it, whether it was at Salzburg where people thought, oh, okay, he's just bullying weaker defense. And then he goes to Dortmund and keeps doing it against tougher opposition. And then you're like, all right, maybe it's just Bundesliga defending. And then he comes to the Premier League, the so-called hardest league in the world. And in his first season, he's smashing every single record, hat tricks like he's bored. And you're watching defenders who've been playing at the top level for a decade look at him like they've never seen this before. And that's the craziest part. Everybody knows what Haaland wants to do. He wants to get into that space behind the line. He wants to run onto a through ball. He wants to smash it with that left foot, and yet they can't stop him because the mix of his size, his speed, and his timing just breaks the game. It's like having Usain Bolt with Zlatan's body and a sniper's accuracy rolled into one, and you can go stat by stat: 50 goals in his debut season for City, youngest player to reach 30 Champions League goals, scoring streaks that make Messi and Ronaldo's early years look slow. And you start to realize this guy isn't just having a hot run. This is his normal. This is what he does. And that aura, that inevitability is what makes him terrifying because strikers usually go through dry spells. They miss sitters, they get rattled. But Haaland is like a machine. Like you wind him up and he just goes. And even when he has a quiet game, all it takes is one ball dropping in the box and bang, it's in the net. Game over. And the crazy thing is he's still young, still learning, still figuring out how to maximize his movement, his positioning, his chemistry with teammates, which means as ridiculous as his numbers already are, there's another level he could reach. And if he does, we're talking about someone who could legitimately finish with the most goals in football history if his body holds up, because right now, every stat sheet he touches looks like a video game leaderboard. When you look at Haaland physically, it's like somebody designed a football striker in a lab and said, all right, let's max out all the stats because the guy is 6'4", built like a heavyweight fighter, but he moves like a sprinter, and that combination is just unfair. Like, imagine trying to defend a guy who's faster than your winger, but stronger than your center back. That's not supposed to exist. That's not the natural balance of the game. And yet here he is exploding past players who thought they had the angle on it, brushing off challenges like they're little kids tugging at his shirt, and then finishing with the calmness of someone playing pickup in the park. And it's not just raw strength or raw speed, it's the way he uses it. Like his stride is insane, 2 or 3 steps and he's clear of the back line. Once he's in behind, you can see defenders almost give up. Like they know he's going to score, and that body control at that size, man. It's crazy because usually when guys are that tall, they're a little clunky. They take heavy touches. They struggle to stay low to the ground. But Haaland has this freakish coordination. Like he can stretch for awkward balls, twist his body midair, and still rifle a shot into the corner. And it's terrifying for keepers because they don't know if he's going to blast it, dink it, or just place it. And his vertical leap, it's like watching an NBA forward crash the rim. You whip in across and defenders are climbing all over him, but he's still towering above, nodding it in like it's a drill, and then add in his stamina because he's not one of those big guys who fades after. He just keeps making those lung-busting runs, keeps pressing, keeps bullying defenders, and that wears teams down. Like by the 80th minute, they look broken because it's one thing to deal with a tricky dribbler or a clinical finisher, but to deal with a guy who's basically a tank with turbo speed and the mindset of a killer, that's exhausting. And what's wild is he's only in his early 20s, which means his body is still peaking, still developing. Like if he stays fit, this is just the foundation. The ceiling is terrifying because football has had physical beasts before, like Drogba, Ibrahimovic, Adriano, but none of them had this exact cocktail of size, pace, and efficiency. Haaland feels like the prototype of the modern striker 2.0. You're just hoping the service dries up because you're not winning a straight duel with this guy. So the big knock people throw at Haaland, and it's kind of funny because it shows how high the bar is with this dude, is that he's too one-dimensional. Like, yeah, he's this insane goal machine, but outside of scoring, what does he really do? And that's the criticism. He doesn't drop deep like Benzema or Kane to link up play. He doesn't thread through balls. He's not this silky dribbler dancing past three guys. And sometimes when City are playing that tight, intricate passing game, he almost looks like a passenger just waiting in the middle, and people love to point at his low touches per game, like he'll have 10 touches and 2 of them are goals, and critics twist that into see he's limited, he's just a finisher. But here's the thing, it's true to an extent. He's not out there dictating tempo or creating a ton of chances for teammates, but the argument becomes, does that even matter when he's literally the most efficient finisher on the planet right now? Like if your job is to win games and the guy scores 50 goals, are you really going to complain? He didn't complete enough dribbles, and it's weird because the game today kind of glorifies the all-round forward like Messi, Lewandowski, Benzema, even Harry Kane, these guys who can do everything. And in comparison, Haaland looks stripped down like this pure apex predator who only exists to get on the end of things. But that's not necessarily a weakness, that's just a different archetype, a throwback to when strikers were judged on goals and nothing else, like Prime Inzaghi or Van Nistelrooy. And in some ways it's scary because with those guys, you know exactly what they're going to do, but you can't stop it, and Haaland's the modern version of that, just with bigger numbers and freakier physical traits. So yeah, the criticism is real. Sometimes in games where he doesn't score, he can look invisible, like he hasn't impacted the match at all, and people jump on that to say he's overrated. But then in the next game, he scores a hat trick from 3 half chances, and you realize that's the whole point. He doesn't need to dominate every phase of the game. He just needs 1 second of space, and he changes the scoreboard. And that's why the limited playstyle argument is kind of a double-edged sword, because while it's true he's not as versatile as some forwards, his simplicity is what makes him so lethal. It's like criticizing a sniper for not being a machine gun. Yeah, it's specialized, but when it hits, it's deadly. Man, the whole modern striker debate is wild because it's like football can't decide what it actually wants from a number 9 anymore. On one side, you've got this new breed of forwards who are expected to be all in one package, not just scoring goals, but also linking play, pressing from the front, drifting wide, creating space, dropping into midfield, like false nines, basically being part of every single attacking phase. And that's why people rave about guys like Benzema or Kane. They're like quarterbacks in football boots. But then you've got someone like Haaland who completely flips that expectation on its head. He's like, nah, I'm here to put the ball in the net. That's my one job. I'll do it better than anyone else. And suddenly the conversation becomes, is that enough in the modern game? Because teams now obsess over fluidity and versatility, but at the end of the day, you still need that cold-blooded finisher, the guy who turns half chances into goals. And that's why Haaland divides people so much. Some say he's the ultimate modern striker because he's this freak athlete breaking records. Others say he's kind of a dinosaur, a poacher with extra horsepower. And what's crazy is both sides might be right. Like the game has evolved so much with pressing systems, inverted wingers, false 9, but when you've got a guy who scores 50 goals a season, all those tactical arguments start to sound like noise because what's more valuable than goals? And then you look around Europe and you see different archetypes succeeding, like Lewandowski still dominating with his all-around play, Mbappe redefining the wide forward who scores like a striker, and then Haaland standing there as this pure, ruthless finisher, and it makes you wonder if the modern striker is even one thing anymore. or if it's just a spectrum of roles depending on the system, because football isn't one size fits all and coaches build around different skill sets. So maybe the debate isn't about what a striker should be, it's about how teams maximize them, like City tailor their whole attacking machine to feed Haaland's runs, whereas Tottenham used to build around Kane dropping deep, and both worked, both scored tons of goals. So maybe the real future of the striker is specialization, like find the skill your forward is elite at, and let him hammer that home instead of forcing him to be everything at once. But people will always argue about it, because we grew up with Messi and Ronaldo doing everything, scoring, creating, dribbling, assisting, and now when you see a guy who only scores, people act like it's a flaw, but maybe it's not a flaw at all. Maybe it's football coming full circle where the deadliest weapon is still the simplest one, the guy who puts the ball in the back of the net. The crazy thing about Haaland's impact on football's future is that it feels like he's forcing the entire sport to rethink what a striker can be and how teams should even defend against that kind of weapon. Because when you see a guy that young, that big, that scoring with such ruthless efficiency, it changes the blueprint for talent scouting. Like clubs are now going to be obsessed with finding the next physical freak who can combine raw athleticism with that killer instinct in front of goal. And it's not just about Norway or City, it's global, because academies all over the world are watching this kid break records and thinking, all right, maybe we need to develop forwards differently. And that ripples into tactics too, like coaches who thought the era of the pure nine was over are suddenly reconsidering. Because when you've got a guy like Haaland, you don't need your striker to be playmaker and creator. You just feed him stretch defenses and let him be the executioner. So it almost feels like he's dragging football back to a simpler time, but in this new futuristic way. And defenders now, they've got nightmares, because how do you prepare for someone who outruns sprinters and outmuscles center backs? You can't train for that. So maybe in the next decade, defenders are going to have to evolve too, get taller, faster, stronger, just to deal with this kind of specimen. And you can already see the ripple effect in the transfer market, clubs throwing huge money at strikers again, because for a while it was all about wingers, playmakers, attacking mids. But Haaland is proving the classic striker is not just alive, it's more valuable than ever. And you think about kids watching him right now, they're not dreaming of being the next Messi dropping into midfield. They're dreaming of being that cold assassin up top who just wrecks teams with goals. So you might see a whole new generation inspired to focus on finishing and movement instead of overcomplicating their game. And in a way that could reset football, because imagine in 10 years leagues are full of these giant, fast, clinical finishers, and tactics swing again to adapt. Maybe defenses drop deeper, maybe midfields adjust to cut supply, but the whole landscape bends around this one type of player, and that's what makes Haaland scary. He's not just dominating now, he's setting the template for the future, like he's the prototype of what's coming. And once football sees something that works this well, you know it's only a matter of time before everyone tries to copy it. So here's the bottom line, man. Whether you love Haaland, whether you think he's too one-dimensional, whether you believe he's redefining the modern striker, or just reviving an old-school role, the reality is this dude has already shaken the whole football world to its core. And that's not hype, that's just fact. Because when you score at that pace, at that level against the best defenders on earth, you're not just part of the game, you're rewriting the game. And it forces everybody, players, coaches, scouts, even fans, to rethink what greatness actually looks like. And that's the wild part, because no matter which side of the debate you're on, you can't ignore him. You can't pretend he's just another forward. And that tells you he's bigger than stats, bigger than tactics. He's a cultural moment in football, like a marker in time where the sport shifts. And we're all just sitting here watching it unfold in real time, which is insane when you think about it. So yeah, thank you for sticking with me through this breakdown. I appreciate you guys for hanging out, listening, questioning, debating. That's what makes this fun. It's the back and forth, the energy, the curiosity, and good luck to everyone chasing their own version of greatness, whether it's on the pitch, in the gym, or in life. Because the lesson here is simple: find your lane, own it, and go all in, just like Haaland. And with that, big thank you, much love, and I'll catch you all in the next one.